Audio reading service now presents a reading of articles and features from the USA Today for Wednesday, July 22nd, 2026. Your reader for this hour is Mary Gilmore. We're going to start with President Donald Trump has taken executive action to impose a new 50% tariff on a wide range of imports from Canada in retaliation for what his administration called discriminatory Canadian trade practices in certain industries against the United States, administration officials say. The move, July 20th, which risks further reigniting a trade war between Canada and the United States, comes after Trump threatened tariffs against the country in response to smoke that entered the United States from raging wildfires in Canada. An administration official said Trump is exploring unspecified tariff options for the wildfire response, however. Sweeping tariffs, which take effect on August 19th, apply to a range of Canadian imports, from wine and dairy to hockey sticks to cement, an official said, but do not extend to energy, potash, fish, and crucial minerals, among other exemptions. All other Canadian exports, including those singled out as tariff-free in the United States-Canada-Mexico agreement signed in 2019, are subject to the tariff. Trump administration officials who discussed the move on the condition of anonymity with reporters cited Canadian trade practices on alcoholic beverages, automobiles, and dairy products exported from the United States for prompting the action, which the officials characterize as defensive measures. Over the past year, all but 2 Canadian provinces have halted the purchase of alcohol from the United States, but not from other countries. Canada has imposed tariffs on automobiles from the United States, but not from other countries. And Canada has established tariff rate quotas on cheese from the United States that are more restrictive than the Canadian policy with the European Union, officials said. Canadian Prime Minister Mark Carney defended his country's trade actions in a statement on Trump's latest tariffs, arguing Canada has merely matched the tariffs and trade policies imposed by the United States. Canada believes in the benefits of free and fair trade, Carney said, pointing to trade agreements Canada has reached with other nations besides the United States. This trade dispute has raised costs for families, particularly in the United States. Canada stands ready to engage intensively to address outstanding issues with the U.S. to the mutual benefit of our countries and our citizens. Trump invokes a different law to get around court ruling. Trump signed 3 proclamations formalizing the tariffs, which were made by invoking Section 338 of the Tariff Act of 1930, often referred to as the Smoot-Hawley Tariff Act. The century-old law is different from the law Trump had cited before, the International Emergency Economic Powers Act of 1977, in his push to use presidential emergency powers to impose reciprocal tariffs on countries. The Supreme Court in February blocked Trump's use of emergency powers to impose tariffs under the 1977 law, forcing the White House to pursue other legal avenues to unilaterally levy fees on imports. For more than a year, the United States and Canada have targeted exports from the other in a deepening trade war. Trump imposed 25% tariffs on automobiles from Canada, prompting Canada to hit the United States with auto tariffs of the same amount. Trump also imposed 50% tariffs on all steel and aluminum imports and 10% tariffs on all lumber imports, both of which affect goods from Canada. While the administration continues to secure fair and reciprocal trade deals with our trading partners, Canada, unlike other partners and allies, continues to retaliate against the United States for its efforts to rebalance trade and protect U.S. industries in national security sensitive sectors, Jamieson Greer, Trump's U.S. trade representative, said in a statement. The two leaders crossed paths at World Final Cup. Trump's latest tariff announcement came one day after Trump and Carney interacted with each other in East Rutherford, New Jersey, where the two leaders attended the World Cup final match between Spain and Argentina. Ahead of their encounter, Trump lashed out at Canada in a post on Truth Social for the filthy, polluted, and unhealthy air that drifted over the United States from Canada's wildfires. Trump said the cost of dealing with the pollution must of necessity be added to the tariffs Canada is currently paying. Trump told reporters after the World Cup that he spoke to Carney about the wildfires during the match. I told him, you've got to stop those fires from coming in and poisoning our air. Our air's been poisoned. I have a good relationship with Mark Carney, but we've got to stop the fires up there. Trump added, maybe they should pay us some damages or something, or we should do some tariffs. Atmosphere is detected on a distant world. A study says new planet may be a sign of life. In a major milestone in the search for life on planets outside our solar system, astronomers have detected, for the first time, an atmosphere surrounding an Earth-like rocky planet orbiting within the habitable zone of another star. The finding provides the strongest evidence yet that worlds with conditions similar to Earth in composition and temperature, with the potential to support life, could exist beyond our solar system, according to a new study published July 16th in the journal Science. An atmosphere is essential for a planet to support life as we know it, said lead author Colin Cherubim in a statement. Cherubim recently earned his PhD in Earth and Planetary Sciences from Harvard University. This is the first time anyone has found an atmosphere on a rocky planet in the habitable zone of a star. How far from Earth is this planet? The exoplanet, so called because it's a planet outside of our solar system, is named LHS 1140b and is located about 49 light years from Earth, 300 trillion miles, in the constellation Cetus, aka the Wheel. It was determined almost a decade ago, and orbits a small red dwarf star called LHS 1140, which is almost 49 light years away from our solar system. This is considered quite close by, Cherubim told USA Today via email. It's in our galactic backyard. Is it in the Goldilocks zone? Yes, he said. It is in the canonical liquid water habitable zone. This means it's at the right temperature to sustain liquid water on its surface, which is necessary for Earth-like life, he told USA Today. What gases might make up the rest of its atmosphere? According to Cherubim, the only atmospheric gas that has been robustly identified is helium. I developed a computer model that predicted a helium-dominated escaping atmosphere on this planet, which is what motivated the observation. The detection is consistent with is consistent with this prediction, he said. My model predicts that most of the atmosphere is helium, and there should also be water, carbon monoxide, carbon dioxide, and small amounts of dioxygen. He added that climate models suggest that there should be lots of water on the planet, so we expect some water in the atmosphere. Could the atmosphere be breathable for humans? This is highly unlikely based on the current data and model predictions, he said. While this planet is Earth-like in its bulk composition and temperature, its atmosphere is probably very different from Earth's. The new data from my study are consistent with my prediction that it's a new class of planet, a helium world. This means it may have a helium-dominated atmosphere with other oxidizing species present at lower altitudes than we probed in the study. Have other similar exoplanets been discovered? Although other researchers have found rocky planets in the habitable zones of their stars, this study is the first to clearly demonstrate the presence of an atmosphere, one that has existed for billions of years. Is the planet's star the same type as our sun? No, according to Cherubim, it is an M dwarf, the most common type of star in the galaxy. It is 5 times smaller than the sun and about 0.5% as bright. The sun is known as a yellow dwarf. M dwarfs are notoriously active compared with sun-like stars. They emit much higher levels of X-ray and extreme UV radiation relative to their total energy output, he said. This high-energy radiation often strips the atmosphere of rocky planets that orbit them. This is why a major question in the field is whether or not rocky planet atmospheres can even survive at all around M dwarfs. My discovery is the first direct detection of such an atmosphere and the first detection of a rocky exoplanet atmosphere in the habitable zone, Cherubim says. There have been other indirect detections. For Java benefits, how you drink it matters. Good news for coffee lovers, mostly. In a review of the latest research, the American Heart Association found multiple cups of your morning brew won't have negative health impacts on your heart. How you drink it matters. In a new scientific statement published on July 20th in the association's peer-reviewed scientific journal, Circulation, researchers found most adults can safely consume up to 5 cups of coffee per day, which is about 400 milligrams of caffeine without increasing risk of cardiovascular disease. These findings are based on black coffee, since large amounts of added sugar, flavored syrups, and dairy products can substantially increase caloric intake and counteract potential health benefits associated with coffee itself, the authors note. The 5-cup rule does not apply to higher caffeine doses, however. High doses of caffeine, such as those found in energy drinks, including energy shots, may have harmful effects on the heart and should be avoided, Dr. Gregory M. Marcus, a professor of medicine at the University of California, San Francisco School of Medicine, and the Associated Chief of Cardiology for Research at the University of California, San Francisco Health, said in a news release. Marcus is also the chair of the AHA's Scientific Statement Volunteer Writing Group that released these findings. These harmful effects may include increased risk of high blood pressure or irregular heart rhythm or arrhythmia, according to research. Energy drink shots can contain 3 to 4 times more caffeine than regular caffeinated coffee per fluid ounce. Consuming caffeinated coffee without added sugars, flavors, or cream, on the other hand, was linked to a lower risk of type 2 diabetes, heart disease, stroke, heart failure and some irregular heart rhythms, the research found. You're listening to a reading of today's issue of the USA Today on the Niagara Frontier Radio Reading Service. The time is 15 minutes after the hour. The review also explored research on coffee's impact on cholesterol, finding unfiltered coffee such as espresso, French press, Turkish coffee, or boiled coffee contains a component that is associated with higher levels of bad cholesterol. The authors note that while coffee is the main source of caffeine for most adults, keep in mind that tea, soda, chocolate can also contribute to overall caffeine intake. More research is still needed on how caffeine from different sources affects different people, the author said. There is no one-size-fits-all statement for safe caffeine consumption, Marcus said. George Mark Children's House offers welcome respite or end-of-life care. Daniel Lockwood's parents say he squealed with enthusiasm the whole last hour of their 4-hour drive to George Mark Children's House on June 1st. Upon their arrival, Sarah and Kevin Lockwood helped their son, who has several diagnoses, including cerebral palsy, into his wheelchair and unload his bags of clothes and medication. It's been a lot of excitement the last 24 hours, Kevin Lockwood said, as 14-year-old Daniel urges his parents inside. Nurses lead Daniel and his family to a Magic Forest-themed bedroom. Between the cartoonish murals, spa center, lush gardens, and packed schedule of music, arts and crafts, horticulture, and other activities, the faculty almost feels like a family resort. And it is, in a way, but to get here, families have to be part of a club that they never really wanted to be in. To be here at George Mark Children's House in sunny California, with the winding paths lined with lavender plants and the revolving door of entertainers and volunteers, means that your child is either living with a life-limiting condition or that they are dying. There are mainly two kinds of families who come to George Mark. Some come for respite, entrusting their medically fragile but otherwise stable children to skilled nurses while parents leave for a much-needed break from around-the-clock caregiving. Others come for pediatric end-of-life care, a rare and essential service that changed the trajectory of CEO Shekinah Ellison's life. These parents stay with their children at George Mark and can bring the patient's siblings too to soak in their last days together. This type of service, I believe, should be part of a system of pediatrics, Ellison said, adding that families never see a bill for their visits. Her son Lars died at George Mark when he was 21 days old after he was born having seizures. We are working so hard to fundraise to keep this house going. There are many families like hers who face a devastating diagnosis with no clear path forward because, as Ellison said, it's hard for us as a society to talk about kids dying or about kids living with incurable diseases without robust pediatric palliative care and resources. Some families watch their children die in hospitals. Others quietly live a life of constant caregiving, never getting relief. Some do both. The stress and the strain on these families is immense, said Jonathan Cotter, who co-founded a similar facility in Arizona. Sleepless nights, tiredness, death, and dying. Trying to coordinate 11 different specialists and all the care that goes into caring for these kids. Pediatric palliative care isn't all doom and gloom, Cotter says. At George Mark, among the lemon trees and animal statues, 24-year-old Paul Tadnigood co-plays as a radio host. He introduces every volunteer and staff member to his imaginary audience. Nurses help 17-year-old Annie Long float through the pool while blasting Delicate by Taylor Swift. Daniel creates a lightsaber with the craft room's 3D printer. It feels homey, not clinical, even though the nurse-to-patient ratio is 4-to-1 and there are hidden oxygen hookups in all of the bedrooms, just in case. This is about living life to the fullest, Cotter says, and giving families the caregiving support they need so that the parents can be parents during life's toughest moments. I've never seen anything like it. When Ellison's son, Lars, was born with a severe brain condition in 2012, doctors knew he wouldn't live for long. Ellison and her husband brought Lars to George Mark, where he spent his final 9 days of his life. Their family received around-the-clock caregiving support, free counseling, and the space to hold a celebration of life after Lars died. We were just so taken care of by the staff, the nurses, the team, Ellison said. She and her husband stayed connected to George Mark for years, and she returned nearly a decade later to serve as CEO. George Mark was the first facility in the United States to offer this service to families in 2004 and was modeled after similar homes in the United Kingdom after founder Kathy Nicholson Hull spent her career as a clinical psychologist watching children die in hospital rooms. Hull understood these families needed a place to go while their kids were alive and a gentler place to grieve when their children died. George Mark and other homes like it don't have more than 10 bedrooms, so as not to feel like a clinic. Many of the respite families at George Mark have never been away from their child even for one night before their first day, Ellison said. That's true for the Lockwoods, who have 6 children, including Daniel. They knew Daniel had epilepsy and cerebral palsy before they adopted him as a toddler. He's since been diagnosed with autism, a swallowing disorder, and attention deficit hyperactivity disorder. He'll need 24/7 care for the rest of his life, including help with feeding and toileting. The Lockwoods say they can get an hour or 2 respite on occasion for a date night, but before they found George Mark in the spring of 2025, it had been years since they were able to get away for a weekend, just the 2 of them. When you have a child with HD or ADHD with 0 impulse control, he uses a wheelchair. He gets really dangerous, Sarah Lockwood said. It just sort of has gotten harder the older he's gotten, while we thought it would get a little easier with time. Angela Dobkin, another parent who uses George Mark for respite, says her oldest daughter, 20-year-old Abigail, has Lennox-Gastaut syndrome, cerebral palsy, and seizure disorder. When Abigail is at St. Mark's, Dobkin says she has time to reset. She sleeps in, goes out to dinner, watches the movies, and spends time with Abigail's siblings, so they get my full, undivided attention. It is such a unique model, Dobkin said. I've never seen anything like it. It's such a different experience for the nurses on staff, too. Antoinette Mincy, Director of Clinical Programs, has worked at George Mark since 2011. Her staff gets to know their patients really well, she says, but the work can feel overwhelming emotionally. You can have a child who is actively dying and then have to walk out the door and go take care of a respite child who's laughing and cracking up and having the respite stay of their life, Mincy said. My self-care is going home and hugging my kids a little more tightly and really spending that family time with them. We don't like to talk about kids dying. It's hurting families. Cotter, who co-founded Ryan House shortly after George Mark opened, is dreaming up a world where every community has a George Mark-like option. His son Ryan was diagnosed with spinal muscular atrophy as a baby, and doctors said he wouldn't live past age 2. Ryan lived to be 17. His care became very intense very quickly, Cotter said. The Cotters lived in London when Ryan was young, and his medical team suggested they take respite at Helen and Douglas House, the original pediatric palliative care home. It was described to us as a children's hospice home, Cotter says. We've heard children's hospice home, and we immediately rejected the idea because we thought that was death and dying and giving up. Words like hospice and palliative often scare families, says Dr. Justin Baker, chief of the Division of Quality of Life and Pediatric Palliative Care at Stanford Medical Children's Hospital. The big barrier to improving the quality of life for kids with complex medical needs is how difficult is it to have these conversations, he says. But pediatric palliative care teams are there to help at some hospitals, walking through the what ifs with families and helping them to make medical decisions. Baker says there should be more of these professionals because the number of children with significant medical complexity is growing. It's a challenge for the entire field of pediatrics, he says, because when kids leave the hospital, families aren't getting the support they need at home. We all hope that every child that gets a diagnosis is able to beat it and find a cure, Ellison says. But that doesn't always happen, unfortunately. So my number one wish is that more folks who knew that there's a really the sentence. So my number one wish is that more folks knew that there's a real reality that not all children survive their diagnosis, as sad as that is, and as hard as that is. That we help build systems to support families and children going through that. A scalable system of pediatric palliative care homes. When the exhaustion becomes too much, Cotter says his family tried Helen House for the first time. Not only was his son well cared for, but the home provided bereavement support and an opportunity for the families to address anticipatory grounds or grief. When their family moved back to Arizona in 2003, they couldn't find anything like it because nothing similar existed yet in the United States. That's when the idea for Ryan House was formed. After Ryan died in 2018, Cotter pivoted to full-time pediatric palliative care advocacy. He's since created Children's Respite Homes of America to track and champion other like facilities across the nation, and the National Center for Pediatric Palliative Care Homes to address necessary policy and reimbursement barriers in the field. The first pediatric palliative care center licensed was recently granted to Iowa, and Mason's Lighthouse is currently fundraising for construction. This license, Cotter says, is the social model he's been working toward. He's already in talks with legislators in 7 other states to get approval. George Mark's majority philanthropy funded model is admittedly not sustainable, Ellison said. That's why she's partnered with Baker's team and other Bay Area hospitals, hospices, and medical centers, though. The holding company CoLab, where pediatric palliative care professionals are working together to find better funding models and improve outcomes for sick kids and their families. We knew that we could take better care of these kids by coming together, Baker said. Ellison added, in order for care like this to be scalable, it's going to be necessary for our community access across medical centers, hospices, and community-based care to work together, and I'm very hopeful for the future. It means a lot to me. Kids with disabilities make lasting memories. At George Mark, as the Lockwoods help Daniel settle in, Paul sings Broadway show tunes with the performer dressed as Princess Aurora in the game room down the hall. Paul, who has cerebral palsy and is blind, has a passion for music. He carries a radio and karaoke machine with him most hours of the day, and the staff and volunteers alike look forward to his impromptu concerts. The people he's met at George Mark, Paul says, are like family. I appreciate them, how much they care for me, he says. It means a lot to me. This is the moment of my life. This is Paul's last respite stay at George Mark after visiting several times since 2017. The faculty cares for kids up to their 25th birthday. The transition to adulthood is hard, says Dr. Amy Porter, a physician investigator in the Division of Supportive and Palliative Care at Massachusetts General Brigham for Children. Aging out of programs like this are aging out of programs like this are on people's minds when their children are infants, because they realize that caregiving is a lifelong endeavor for themselves and for their children. The Lockwoods have another decade before they'll need to worry about what life looks like without the respite care George Mark provides. Once Daniel's things were unpacked and his nurses briefed on the medications and the feeding routine, he happily set off to the wheelchair-accessible playground out back. His parents breathed a sigh of relief and set off for Cabo San Lucas to celebrate 27 years of marriage. It means a lot to us because we can actually mentally unplug, disconnect from any fear, any worry about caring for him, Kevin Lockwood says. It's the only time where we trust everything's handled, and even if we're out of cell signal, it's going to work out. Madeline Mitchell's role covering women and the caregiving economy at USA Today is supported by a partnership with Pivotal and journalism funding partners. Funders do not provide editorial input. You're listening to a reading of today's issue of the USA Today on the Niagara Frontier Radio Reading Service. The time is 33 minutes after the hour. We are going to go to the money section of the USA Today, and we're going to do 50 states. And our highlighted state today is Florida and Palm Beach. A Florida butterfly, notable for a brocade of blue on midnight dark wings and a firework red abdomen, was dragged from the abyss of extinction by cunning naturalists who rediscovered the ecological treasure in the late 1970s. Instead of alerting government wildlife officials to the presence of an Atala butterfly 3 decades ago, which may have brought a blockade of federal rules down on the population, butterfly enthusiasts spread the caterpillars of the Atala through South Florida, leading to a resurgence that has found them as far north as Gainesville and Tampa as the climate warms. Okay. Alabama, Tuscaloosa. Tuscaloosa County Economic Development Authority has received more than $2.3 million in state funding to improve a key industrial site at the Tuscaloosa County Airport Industrial Park. Alaska, Anchorage. Alaska Zoo staff and the Alaska Department of Fish and Game said Kitty, a brown bear injured by another bear at the zoo, has been moved to a new facility, Alaska Public Media reported. Arizona, Santa Cruz County. The U.S. Forest Service has approved a fast-tracked critical minerals mine in southern Arizona despite years of pushback from nearby communities. The $2 billion South 32 Hermosa project will unearth deposits of zinc, manganese, lead, and silver, all deemed critical materials or minerals and buried in the Patagonia Mountains near the U.S.-Mexican border. Arkansas, Little Rock. Arkansas ranked first in the nation for religious liberty in the new index released by the First Liberty Institute's Center for Religion, Culture, and Democracy, with Governor Sarah Huckabee Sanders crediting recent state laws aimed at protecting religious expression, while Democrats argued the state should focus on broader quality of life issues. California, Burbank. Marvel Comics will move its publishing division from New York City to Burbank, California, ending the comic book publisher's nearly 90-year presence in the city where it was founded, according to a source familiar with the matter. Colorado, Windsor. Despite a temporary demolition delay due to an unexpected discovery of wildlife squatters, ongoing renovation work at Windsor Middle School is still expected to be complete in November. After years of planning and millions of dollars in allocated bond funding, renovations at the middle school are underway to update the now more than 100-year-old building. Connecticut, Hartford. The Connecticut Department of Labor said the state's unemployment rate climbed to 5.2% in June, its sixth straight month above the national rate, WFSB reported. Delaware, Dover. The Delaware Lottery is expanding sports betting beyond casinos, installing new self-service wagering kiosks at retailers across the state. The kiosks, already available at Delaware's 3 casinos, Harrington Raceway and Casino, Bally's Dover, and the Delaware Park Casino, were installed at 89 sports lottery retailers statewide in June. District of Columbia, Washington. The Office of the Deputy Mayor for Education has announced the launch of a new school safety office, the first centralized safety hub for all schools in D.C., WUSA 9 reported. Georgia, Columbia County. A waste company is seeking approval to build a concrete batch plant and waste transfer station east of Harlem and on nearly 31 acres. According to filings with Columbia County and the Georgia Department of Community Affairs, the project would require rezoning, and it is valued at about $2 million at full build-out. Hawaii, Honolulu. Federal wildlife officials have downlisted the Hawaiian stilt from endangered to threatened after determining its population has recovered enough to reduce its extinction risk, Hawaii News Now reported. Idaho, Boise. Idaho Fish and Game said Timothy Hicks of Post Falls set a new state record with his 49.75-inch northern pike catch on Lake Penn Oriole in June, surpassing the previous mark by 3/4 of an inch, KTVU reported. Illinois, Springfield. Christina Shunt, the longest tenured executive director of the Abraham Lincoln Presidential Library and Museum, announced that she will be stepping down at the end of 2026, the end of her 5-year term. Indiana, Lebanon. Indiana is considered the state's first off-the-grid power source to provide electricity temporarily to a metadata center being built in Lebanon. Iowa, Iowa City. Johnson County is considered a primary care clinic for unhoused individuals in Iowa City. The potential primary care clinic could be established within the winter shelter as soon as April 2027. Kansas, Topeka. Cannon fire will be heard July 26 outside one-time home of a Topekan who helped spark the Civil War. A couple of blank rounds will be fired from a replica Civil War cannon outside the former home of John Ritchie, a radical abortionist and Union Army officer, said retired Army Colonel Frank Stiltman. Kentucky, Louisville. A Kentucky company is eyeing the Guinness World Record title of the longest internet literacy live stream. If it succeeds, this could become Kentucky's first record of good, which recognizes record-breaking feats centered around positive social impact, community service, and global empowerment. The event, 25 hours, One Connected World, is set for September 24th and 25th. Louisiana, Lafayette, Louisiana Lafayette. Lafayette chef Chris Allen will represent Louisiana at the 22nd annual Great American Seafood Cook-Off in New Orleans on July 25th after winning the title of 2026 King of Louisiana Seafood. Maine, Kittery. A significant water leak at Portsmouth Naval Shipyard, the second in 3 months, resulting in water discoloration for Kittery Water District customers. The leak lasted the majority of the weekend, beginning July 18th, and was not isolated and stopped July 29th. Maryland, Baltimore. There were 307 stolen vehicles recovered at seaports by the U.S. Customs and Border Protection Baltimore Field Office in fiscal year 2025, a 23% increase from the previous year, according to a release by CBP. Massachusetts, Boston. Governor Maura Healey signed into law a bill creating a new, free, specialty license plate to honor the fallen law enforcement officers. Michigan, Muskegon County. A nearly 6-foot lake sturgeon was found dead in the middle of the road in Muskegon County, where there is no legal lake sturgeon fishing water, according to the Michigan Department of Natural Resources. The 71 fish was likely taken from the White River, according to the department. Minnesota, St. Paul. On July 14th, Governor Tim Walz participated in a ceremonial signing of the state's new bipartisan Grandparents Happy Hour bill, which allows nursing homes and assisted living facilities to serve alcoholic beverages to residents and their guests during the events without obtaining a traditional retail liquor license. Oh my goodness, there'll be some happy grandparents. Mississippi, Hines County. Hinds County Sheriff Tyree Jones confirmed a detention officer was fired following an internal investigation into the July 3rd beating death of inmate Milan Butler at the Raymond Detention Center. Missouri, Branson. A Branson paper, along with other publications it owns and it prints, has abruptly shuttered, causing issues for smaller papers around the region. The Branson Tri-Lakes News, Stone County Republican Crane Chronicle, and the Berry County Advertiser closed without warning on July 16th. You're listening to a reading of today's issue of the USA Today on the Niagara Frontier Radio Reading Service. The time is 45 minutes past the hour. Montana, Bozeman. State officials and agricultural leaders marked the opening of a new $58 million combined state laboratories at Montana State University, consolidating 3 major labs to modernize research, disease testing, and diagnostics for the state's agricultural industry, KBZK reported. Nebraska, Omaha. The University of Nebraska Medical Center has opened a new residence hall, even as the University of Nebraska system faces a state-mandated $36 million budget cut, WOWT reported. Nevada, Carson City. The growing number of deaths in Nevada prisons prompted scrutiny from state lawmakers who were told by correction officials that 166 people have died in custody since 2024, Nevada Current reported. New Hampshire, Durham. Professionals seeking to expand their business skills have new options at the University of New Hampshire Peter T. Paul College of Business and Economics. The college is launching 4 new online graduate certificates designed to offer targeted, flexible learning, according to a community announcement. New Jersey, Sandyston. The New Jersey School of Conservation will remain open after the community rallied to help secure $1.3 million in funding in the state's budget. New Mexico, Santa Fe. Santa Fe Parks and Open Space is rebuilding the tree canopy at the Fort Marcy complex by planting more than 3 dozen replacement trees after removing 12 large Siberian elms last year, KRQE reported. New York, New York. A 3rd person has died from Legionnaire's disease just days after the New York City health officials said cases were slowing and the source of the outbreak was seemingly eradicated in Manhattan's Upper East Side. North Carolina, Raleigh. North Carolina is one of the best states for conducting business, according to a study from CNBC. The Tar Heel State ranked in the top 3 states for business in the United States, according to CNBC's 2026 numbers. North Dakota, Bismarck. FEMA has approved more than $680,000 in post-disaster funding for North Dakota to help communities recover and protect infrastructure from future hazards, KXNET reported. Ohio, Wilberforce. Ohio's only public historically black university overcharged students and racked up penalties for missed pension payments amid widespread financial problems as recently as mid-2023, according to a new state audit. Central State University has faced a myriad of problems with finances and building maintenance in its recent years. Oklahoma City. Oklahoma City is once again ranked at the bottom of the list of the nation's fittest cities in the updated 2026 rankings. The annual fitness index, published by the American College of Sports Medicine and Health Foundation, ranks the nation's 100 most populous cities on personal health and community environmental health indicators. Oregon, Cannon Beach. A small town on the Oregon coast earned a spot on a new list of must-visit destinations according to the United States. Travel website Why Travel listed Cannon Beach as one of the small towns that should be included on any Oregon road trip. Pennsylvania, York. A project to beautify the Codorus Creek could come next year. All the background pieces should be in place for construction of the $40.5 million first phase to begin sometime in 2027. Rhode Island, Providence. The Rhode Island State Police have captured a former doctor from East Greenwich, who vanished during his rape trial 21 years ago. Ronald L. Fisher, one of Rhode Island's most wanted fugitives, was arrested after his 56-foot sailboat was intercepted off the coast of New Jersey, the state police announced. South Carolina, Greenville. The city of Greenville has officially begun a $1.7 million endeavor to repave the city's streets most in need of repair. South Dakota, Kyle. The murder of Oglala Sioux tribe member Alton Mesteth is under investigation by the FBI, which is offering a $25,000 reward for information that leads to the arrest and conviction of those responsible. Tennessee, Summer County. Residents of Summer County will soon have access to expanded health care services, including the county's only inpatient pediatric unit of the High Point Health Summer Station campus. The $59.3 million project is expected to bring advanced cardiac care I lost my place there. I am terribly sorry. To bring advanced cardiac care, surgical capabilities, and more inpatient services closer to home, according to the High Point Health with Ascension St. Thomas officials. I think I need new reading glasses. Texas, Lubbock. For the first time in nearly 80 years, Texas Tech University football stadium will no longer include the name Jones. Texas Tech Athletics announced the previously named Jones AT&T Stadium will now be called the Galaxy Stadium. Utah, Salt Lake City. Governor Spencer Cox said he is returning authority over fireworks restrictions to local municipalities for the upcoming Pioneer Day weekend, as wildfire danger varies widely across Utah, KUTV reported. Vermont, Montpelier. Vermont officials are encouraging residents to reflect on and protect the state's lakes as part of a statewide observance recognized by Governor Phil Scott. July has been proclaimed Lakes Appreciation Month, seeking to highlight the value of Vermont's more than 800 lakes and ponds, according to a community announcement. Virginia, Petersburg. Petersburg Area Transit said it is actively addressing issues with air conditioning on its buses after a Hopewell resident emailed every single member of the Petersburg and Hopewell City Council complaining that the buses were too hot to ride, according to copies of the emails received by the Peterson Progress Index, part of the USA Today network. Washington, Kitsap County. Fish Line will begin farming fresh produce in an effort to break down cost barriers to nutritious food in North Kitsap. A recent statement from the community nonprofit announced Fish Line signed a lease to farm 2 acres at Peterson Farm in Clear Creek Valley to help provide for North Kitsap communities facing food insecurity. West Virginia, Charleston. Governor Patrick Morrisey recently announced a $75 million project to rehabilitate Charleston's Eugene R. Carter Memorial Bridge, also known as the Fort Hill Bridge, aimed at improving safety and extending the structure's lifespan, WV News reported. Wisconsin, Madison. A Madison utility is seeking its own plan to hold tech companies responsible for costs associated with data centers. Madison Gas and Electric filed a plan with the State Public Service Commission to create a separate electrical rate for hyperscale data centers. Wyoming, Casper. Casper officials said new irrigation automation and conservation measures have cut water use by 38% and saved about $100,000 this fiscal year. With upgraded systems and targeted turf recovery efforts continuing across city parks. Oil Street News reported this. You're listening to a reading of articles and features from the USA Today for Wednesday, July 22nd, 2026 on the Niagara Frontier Radio Reading Service. We'll return for more readings after this short break. Your reader for this hour has been Mary Gilmore. Thank you.
You're listening to the Niagara Frontier Radio Reading Service. As of this year, our agency has broadcast more than 300,000 hours of radio readings. Volunteer radio readers read newspapers, magazines, and books to area people who are blind or have a print disability, who are provided reading radios. Radio Reading's broadcast signal is provided at no charge by WNED. Radio Reading broadcasts from studios at 1199 Harlem Road in suburban Buffalo. Please let others know about Radio Reading. It's your service. For more information on the Niagara Frontier Radio Reading Service, call 716-821-5555.
We'll continue now with our reading of articles from today's issue of the USA Today. Your reader for this hour is David Frothingham. The first headline on today's sports section in the USA Today reads, it's under the college football banner, it reads bragging rights. With the college football season fast approaching, we take a look at the nation's 25 best programs by Paul Meyerberg, Blake Topmeyer, Jordan Mendoza, and Eddie Timonus. College football changes fast in the era of the transfer portal. If you blink, the dominant teams of the current era can become afterthoughts, and those that were in the cellar can rise to the elite. That's why ranking the best programs needs to be done each off-season. Our list of the top 25 has been shuffled significantly after the 2025 campaign. Indiana would not have been part of the conversation 2 years ago. Last year it was ascending. Now the Hoosiers, our national champions, make the list. BYU, Ole Miss, and SMU are among the other programs on the rise. On the downside, Clemson and Nebraska are among the teams falling back in the rankings. Wisconsin and Michigan State have completely fallen out. So how does our list stack up? Without further ado, here's our best 25 as voted on by the experts at USA Today Sports. Number 1, Ohio State. We are witnessing one of the greatest runs in college football in Columbus. The Buckeyes are 165-21 since 2012. In 2024, Ryan Day became the program's third full-time coach in a row to win a national championship. What else is there to say? Ohio State has won at least 10 games in every full season, but one since 2005. It is simply the Football Bowl subdivision gold standard and the envy of every program in the country and in and out of the Big Ten. Number 2, Alabama. Alabama football is more than a program, and it's bigger than an international brand. It's a way of life. The script A represents tradition and excellence. Alabama fans are plugged in year-round to their favorite sport, and expectations rarely dip. There are also the national championships, 13 among the 2 major wire services. And the debate over who is the sport's greatest coach comes down to Nick Saban or Bear Bryant. Either way, it's an Alabama coach. Number 3, Georgia. The Bulldogs are rising the charts with a bullet, as Kirby Smart has made them look like a blue blood without the long extended success of being a national power that others have had. There were glory days at Georgia when Herschel Walker and Vince Dooley supplied the previous peak in the early 1980s. But now is the best time to be a Georgia fan, and success doesn't seem to be slowing down as long as Smart is in charge. Number 4, Notre Dame. You cannot tell the history of college football without a major chapter involving the Fighting Irish. From Rockne to Leahy to Parsegian and Holtz, there have been some of the memorable teams and moments in the sport. There was a dip at the start of the century, but Brian Kelly and now Marcus Freeman have put the school back where Notre Dame fans expect it to be, fighting for a national championship. Number 5, Texas. Texas has been the natural resource of high school football talent and a deep war chest that is needed in the game, that is needed in the name, image, and likeness era. The Longhorns were a traditional power that emerged from an inexcusable, prolonged slumber in between Mack Brown and Steve Sarkisian. Texas enjoyed its heyday in the Southwest Conference under Darrell Royal, but the Longhorns also showed their horns during the Brown era. They belong among the heavy hitters. Number 6, LSU. LSU is the only program to have 3 coaches win a national championship in this millennium. Lane Kiffin could become the 4th. Money poured in to fund his roster. LSU's standards are such that Brian Kelly got fired after winning 71% of his games. In-state talent gravitates to LSU, but the Tigers also build a national brand, and a night game at Tiger Stadium is a college football mecca. Number 7, Michigan. One of the more consistent programs in the country, the Wolverines also stand out due to their renowned stadium and unique helmets. The one blemish on the resume was the ability to break through with a national title this century. They experienced that with Jim Harbaugh in 2023, restoring their place among the elite, though detractors might point to the NCAA violations that occurred during that season. Number 8, Oklahoma. The Crimson and Cream have blue blood. Among Southeastern Conference schools, Oklahoma trails only Alabama for all-time winning percentage. Double-digit win seasons remain the standard, although the 2000 Sooners remain OU's last national champion. Oklahoma ruled the 1950s under Bud Wilkinson, then ran back their dominance with Barry Switzer's Wishbone in the 1970s and 80s. 7 Heisman Trophy winners point to the program's star power. Number 9, Florida, Miami. Curiously, conference membership hasn't been quite as much of a boon for the Hurricanes, whose 5 national championships predate their ACC tenure. That might be about to change given the program's recent resurgence, and there's no disputing Miami is a nationally known brand, though that is in part due to its reputation for circumventing the rules on and off the field. Number 10, Southern Cal. The dominant power in the Pac-12 through the Pete Carroll tenure, the results haven't been there for Southern Cal since NCAA violations hammered the program. It still hasn't made the college football playoff, and the transition to the Big Ten hasn't been smooth. Things may be looking up after a 9-win 2025 season and the arrival of one of the nation's top-ranked signing classes. Still, the Trojans have several rungs to climb before reaching the top of the Big Ten. Number 11, Oregon. Probably the best program in the FBS. Without a national championship to its name, Oregon played for a pair during the Bowl Championship Series era and then advanced to last year's semifinals before losing to Indiana. Not a traditional power, the Ducks have 16 seasons of at least 10 wins since 2000 and are 46-8 under coach Dan Lanning. The move to the Big Ten led to an unbeaten run to the conference title in their first year and an 8-1 record in 2025. Number 12, Penn State. Joe Paterno is the symbol of this program as the winningest coach in major college football with 409 victories and also 2 national titles. The program, also defined by its blue and white uniforms, was in crisis after NCAA sanctions related to the Jerry Sandusky scandal. Bill O'Brien set the foundation, and James Franklin did the heavy lifting to get the Nittany Lions back into the elite of college football. After failing to land a title under Franklin, Penn State will reset under Matt Campbell. Number 13, Clemson. To paraphrase a mantra from another league, football just means more at Clemson. Among the ACC's founders, the Tigers returned to national prominence in the 2010s with 2 national titles under Dabo Swinney is just a small part of the program's rich legacy that includes 24 conference titles and nearly 800 wins. A downturn in the last 3 years has seen Clemson slip from its position near the top. Number 14, Florida. Few individuals mean more to a program than what Steve Spurrier means to Florida. He revolutionized the Gators from an also-ran into one of the premier programs of the 1990s. The head ball coach branded the swamp and gave the Gators an identity. They became SEC championship game regulars. Urban Meyer injected more glory with 2 titles. Florida lacks the consistency and history of some higher-ranked programs, but its peaks are just as lofty. Number 15, Texas A&M. Trivia question. When did Texas A&M last win a national championship? Answer, 1939. The Aggies possess the financial resources, fan support, and recruiting locations to be top shelf, but greatness stubbornly eludes them. They have just 2 10-win seasons and 4 finishes in the final U.S. LBM Coaches Bowl this century. R.C. Slocum's Aggies ruled the Southwest Conference in the early 1990s. Is it time for a fresh set of glory days? Mike Elko's early returns suggest it's safe for the Aggies to dream of ascending to their potential. Number 16, Tennessee. Few states can match Tennessee's unrelenting vigor for college football. General Robert Neyland put the Vols on the map and got his name on the stadium. Johnny Majors earned a place of adoration. Philip Fulmer's Vols flourished in the 1990s with a national title coming in 1998. Since Fulmer, Tennessee's ravenous fans infrequently had a chance to experience title contention. Josh Heupel has helped the program recapture respectability, but there's still work to get back to the elite. Number 17, Indiana. Last year's unbeaten record and out-of-nowhere national title puts Indiana in rarefied air. This is a program that had 2 bowl appearances before the Bill Mallory era of the late 1980s and early 1990s established credibility. The bottom fell out before success under Tom Allen in 2019 and 2020 preceded Curt Cignetti's arrival that has supercharged the program. Even with their lack of long-term history, the Hoosiers have 27 wins in 2 seasons and look poised for another playoff run. Number 18, Florida State. FSU does not have the century-plus history of other schools in the region, having a football program that only dates to 1954. But legendary coach Bobby Bowden built the program into a household name, and the Seminoles arriving in the ACC proved mutually beneficial to both institution and conference, elevating the league's profile in the sport while keeping FSU one of the leaders in national conversation. Success has been difficult to grasp after Jimbo Fisher's departure, but the program still has the cachet needed to be national contenders. Number 19, BYU. It's been a wild ride for the Cougars since their days in the Western Atlantic Conference under Lavelle Edwards. There were the quarterbacks of the 1980s and 90s, including Steve Young, Jim McMahon, and Ty Detmer, and a national title in 1984. The program joined the Mountain West and then became an independent. The high point was 4 seasons of 43 combined wins under Bronco Mendenhall from 2006 to 2009. Kalani Sitake's arrival and move to the Big 12 have pushed the Cougars back into the national conversation as a playoff contender the last 2 seasons. Number 20. With the possible exception of 2009, when poor quarterback play offset one of the top defenses in program history, Nebraska hasn't been a national factor in well over 20 years. A school that won 3 titles in 4 years in the 1990s and was a lock to make a bowl game for more than 3 decades didn't make the postseason for 7 consecutive seasons. There's been recent progress with 2 bowl berths in a row, even if noted turnaround artist Matt Ruley has yet to win more than 7 games. Number 21, Auburn. These are dark days for Auburn. The Tigers endured 5 consecutive losing seasons, their bleakest period since the late 1940s. The loyal fan base deserves better. Recent woes aside, this accomplished program achieved undefeated seasons under 3 coaches since the 1990s and won a national title in 2010. From Pat Sullivan to Bo Jackson to Cam Newton, it produced decorated stars. It just needs to pull out of this funk. Number 22, Washington. The Huskies emerged as one of the top programs in the 1980s and 90s under Don James and won a national championship in 1991. In recent times, Chris Peterson took Washington to the playoff, and Kalen DeBoer had them in the national title game in 2023. The Huskies have made a bowl in every non-COVID season, but won since 2010 and posted double-digit wins 5 times. Number 23, Iowa. Iowa has been a model of consistency dating to the end of the Hayden Fry era. When a then 44-year-old Kirk Ferentz replaced a retiring Fry, the Hawkeyes found greater success. They have won losing seasons since 2006 and qualified for bowls in the last 24 of his 25 seasons. The current run is the best of Ferentz's era. Iowa has won at least 7 games every year since 2013 and has played for 2 Big Ten crowns since 2021. Number 24, Ole Miss. Those old enough to witness Johnny Vaught remember Ole Miss as a powerhouse from the 1950s and 60s. Those who watched Archie Manning remember the Rebels with a superstar and his son Eli being a star. But there were also NCAA troubles and lean years that kept the program from winning the SEC. Lane Kiffin's arrival changed the trajectory of the program, and last year the Rebels reached the semifinals. Now the challenge is continuing the momentum with Kiffin gone to LSU. Number 25, SMU. The Mustangs have returned to national prominence after their move to the ACC. There's a Wild West vibe to the school's football history, with marquee names like Doak Walker, Eric Dickerson, weighed against the infamy of the NCAA death penalty. The program has made it all the way back in the 40 years since, making the college football playoff in 2024 and contending for the conference title the following season. You're listening to a reading of today's issue of the USA Today on the Niagara Frontier Radio Reading Service. The time is 15 minutes after the hour. The next headline in today's sports section is under the NFL banner. The season is 49 days away, and the headline reads, "Huddle Up for an Off-Season Primer" by Nate Davis. No need to keep it 100. Believe it or not, the 2026 NFL regular season was only 50 days away, July 21st. If you check out the league's 24/7, 365 news cycle during the alleged off-season, then you've missed a lot, including major trades in June, some new scheduling wrinkles, an averted strike by the officials, politics briefly encroaching on one young team's locker room, and an apparent football version of Fatal Attraction hovering over one of last season's Super Bowl entries, to say nothing of the typical roster churn stirred by free agency and the draft. In the name of a refresher prior to the widespread opening of training camps, and the defending champion Seattle Seahawks hosting the New England Patriots 7 weeks from today, here are the 50 things you need to know ahead of the first kickoff of the 2026 campaign that counts. Number 1. In case you'd also tuned out the worldwide leader of late, Super Bowl 61 will be the first broadcast by ESPN in its 47-year history. Super Sunday will also fall on Valentine's Day for the first time in its existence, while also being staged on President's Day weekend for the first time, meaning the Super Bowl is basically now a bona fide national holiday that even allows for sleeping in on Monday morning. Number 2, the Super Bowl will also be played at SoFi Stadium for the second time since the venue opened in 2020, the Los Angeles Rams defeating the Cincinnati Bengals 23-20 in Super Bowl 56 to cap the 2021 season. Rematch, anyone? Number 3. Calling a Week 1 game a rematch seems a bit overblown 7 months after the Seahawks embarrassed the Patriots in Super Bowl 60. But it will be just the third time that the most recent Super Bowl participants square off in the subsequent season opener, and first since the Denver Broncos and the Carolina Panthers kicked off the 2016 season. Number 4, sticking with the Super Bowl theme, only 4 of the NFL's 32 teams still have not played in one. A year removed from being the NFC's number 1 playoff seed, can the Detroit Lions, the only franchise to go 0 for 60 on the Super Bowl front, get to LA next February on the heels of a last-place finish in 2025? Might they even face the Houston Texans or Jacksonville Jaguars playoff teams last season? Stranger things have happened, though we're going to preemptively count out the Cleveland Browns again. Super Bowl 60 MVP Kenneth Walker III left the Seahawks in March to join the Kansas City Chiefs, joining 3-time Super Bowl MVP Patrick Mahomes in his new backfield. Walker's presence should buoy what's become a stagnant KC run game. The Chiefs hadn't had a 1,000-yard rusher since 2017. While relieving some of the burden on Mahomes, who is targeting a Week 1 return but might not be fully himself for some time in the aftermath of the season-ending knee injury he suffered last December. Number 6. Yet history doesn't bode well for Walker, the 4th Super Bowl MVP to join another team prior to the subsequent season. The others were Larry Brown, Desmond Howard, and Dexter Jackson, none of them especially impactful following their Super Sunday heroics. Number 7. What are the odds the Patriots become the first franchise to win 7 Super Bowls at the end of this season? According to BetMGM, positive 2,000. Why so long? Plenty fell into place for the Pats during their worst-to-first turnaround in 2025. However, only 3 teams have ever won a Lombardi Trophy the season after losing a Super Bowl. Though the Tom Brady-led 2018 Patriots were one of them, the only one to turn the trick in the last 5 decades. Number 8. Yet, despite the much-anticipated June 1 acquisition of wide receiver A.J. Brown to their arsenal, the Patriots will have to hope that Diana Rossini the Diana Rossini scandal that has dogged reigning NFL Coach of the Year Mike Vrabel all off-season doesn't bubble into an even bigger distraction once the season starts. Number 9. The number of teams that have repeated as Super Bowl champions. The Seahawks aim to be the 10th, but only the second in the last 2 decades, following the 2022-2023 Chiefs. Number 10. The number of new head coaches in 2026, tied for the most ever in one season. The Bills, Browns, Cardinals, Dolphins, Falcons, Giants, Raiders, Ravens, Steelers, and Titans are all under new on-field leadership. 11. As for Pittsburgh, Mike Tomlin might have departed after 19, all non-losing seasons, but good bet his Sunday night analysis this season on Football Night in America will become the latest iteration of must-see TV on NBC. Number 12. Tomlin won't be the only new component to NFL viewership in 2026. For the first time, the league will play a game on Thanksgiving Eve, Netflix streaming Packers-Rams on Wednesday, November 25th. Number 13. That won't be the only Wednesday game, the calendar falling in such a way, Labor Day falling on September 7th, to force the Seahawks-Patriot kickoff slot into the first Week 1 Wednesday opener since 2012. Number 14. The league's first ever regular season game in Australia, 49ers versus Rams in Melbourne, is also adding some havoc in Week 1, those teams taking the Thursday window instead of the opening weekend in a contest that will kick off at 10:35 a.m. local time, 8:35 p.m. Eastern time. Little wonder that San Francisco coach Kyle Shanahan is salty about playing this one and flying all those literal miles. The Niners typically get at least as much support as the Rams during games played at SoFi between the NFC West foes, at a time when he'd like to reduce the figurative miles on his stout but veteran-laden and often brittle team. Number 15. A record 9 games will be played internationally in 2026, when the league will also showcase its first regular season contest in Paris, when the New Orleans Saints host the Pittsburgh Steelers on Sunday, October 25th. Number 16. The number of consecutive seasons the New York Jets will miss the playoffs if they fail to qualify this season, which they will. It's the longest current drought among NFL, MLB, NBA, and NHL teams. The NYJ no longer linked with hockey's Buffalo Sabres after they ended their 14-year hex earlier this year. 17. Is this the year the NFL ticker hits a field goal from at least 70 yards that counts? Jacksonville's Cam Little drilled one in preseason last year before connecting from 67 and 68 yards during the season, the 2 longest in league history. Officially, Dallas's Brandon Aubrey is also a legitimate threat. The league record holder with the most career field goals of 60-plus yards, 6. Aubrey hit a trio of those in 2025 to establish a new single-season mark. 18. League-wide, there were a record 12 field goals in the 2025 regular season that covered at least 60 yards. There were 4 in the 20th century. Number 19. The Miami Dolphins don't have a quarterback on their roster who's completed 50 passes in a season, nor a wide receiver who's caught 50 balls in a season. What could possibly go wrong? Number 20. This season will mark 20 years since the Saints came back to New Orleans following their Hurricane Katrina-induced absence in 2005. Their return will be marked by a Week 4 Monday night game in Week 4 against the Atlanta Falcons, whom the Saints beat 23-3 on the MNF stage in 2006, sparked by Steve Gleason's legendary blocked punt minutes into the game, which was also newly elected Hall of Famer Drew Brees' first in the Big Easy as the Saints quarterback. 21. No team is further removed from its last NFC North title than the Green Bay Packers, who last won it in 2021, Aaron Rodgers' final MVP season. 22. Could be tough for the Pack to regain the throne of a tightly contested division in 2026, given OLB Micah Parsons isn't expected on the field until October and might not be 100% all season as he recovers from surgery following knee injury he suffered last December. 23. The last quarterback drafted number 1 overall whose head coach wasn't fired during his rookie season, the Cincinnati Bengals' Joe Burrow in 2020. Good luck to Las Vegas Raiders' first-year HC Clint Kubiak, who was saddled with top pick Fernando Mendoza this year. Number 24. Zach Taylor remains the only coach Burrow has ever had, and heading into the 2026 season, is the only AFC North head coach not in his first season. 25. In 2025, the NFC West became the first division in league history which had 3 teams win at least 12 regular season games. Number 26. The NFC South, which didn't have a team finish above 500 in 2025, hasn't had a single 11-game winner since Brady's Bucks went 13-4 in 2021. After OLB Nick Herbig's recent extension, the Steelers are the only team with 3 pass rushers who have contracts averaging more than $17 million annually. Sure seems like TJ Watt and or Alex Highsmith could be following retiring Rodgers out of the Steel City after this season. 28. Before the Seahawks host the Patriots in the 2026 kickoff game, the Carolina Panthers and Arizona Cardinals will initiate the preseason in the Pro Football Hall of Fame game at Canton, Ohio on August 6th. 29. This year's HOF class includes Breeze, Roger Craig, and Adam Vinatieri, plus Cardinals and Panthers legends Larry Fitzgerald and Luke Kuechly, respectively. 30. The number of years since the Dallas Cowboys last reached the Super Bowl, or even the NFC Championship game. But could a team that allowed the most points in the league in 2025 and added defensive reinforcements post-Parsons be set up for a deep run now, given its offensive power? Quote, "That's the one thing I truly love about the Cowboys organization and the fan base, is it's Super Bowl or nothing," Dallas QB Dak Prescott said last week. That's what being a competitor is. If it's not how you're wired, that's not how you think, whether you're a fan, whether you're a player, whether you're a coach, then I think you're in the wrong business. And honestly, I don't want you on my team. I love those expectations," end quote. 31. Prescott, who turns 33 next week and needs 6 TD passes to overtake Tony Romo, 248, as the franchise's all-time leader in that category, is entering his 11th season. But like his predecessor Romo, Prescott still only has 2 playoff wins to his credit. 32. Does any general manager-coach duo enter the 2026 season on a collectively warmer perch than the Indianapolis Colts' Chris Ballard and Shane Steichen, respectively? Despite ending last season on a 7-game slide, Indy owner Carly Isray Gordon kept the duo even though the Colts haven't reached the playoffs since 2020. Isray Gordon declaring, "I'm pissed," despite retaining her brain trust. A vote of confidence like no other. 33. No coaching hire in 2026 has more fanfare than John Harbaugh's shift northward on Interstate 95 from Baltimore to New York, where he takes over the Giants. He went 11-5 in his first season with the Ravens way back in 2008. But what does he do now for a franchise that hasn't won 11 games in a decade? 34. A major corollary of all the coaching turnover this year is the widespread change at offensive coordinator throughout the league, many of the new ones hired by head coaches who remained in place, and teams seem to be casting a wider net than ever looking for the next great play caller. 35. In Washington, the Commanders have pivoted to rookie OC offensive coach David Blau, who was a quarterback in the NFL as recently as 2023. He's merely charged with getting QB Jaden Daniels back on track after his injury-plagued 2025 regression followed perhaps the greatest rookie season ever in 2024. In Philadelphia, number 36, in Philadelphia, the Eagles have pivoted to rookie offensive coach Sean Mannion, who was a quarterback in the NFL as recently as 2023. He's merely charged. The paper repeated itself. The Eagles will likely be as scrutinized as any team in 2026. What else is new? Given the expectation Hurts will have to adjust to an offense that will force him to be under center more often, use more pre-snap motion, and make quicker decisions, not necessarily the ingredients that made him a Super Bowl MVP last year. 37. In Denver, the Broncos have pivoted to rookie offensive coach Davis Webb, who was a quarterback in the NFL as recently as 2022. He's merely charged with following Sean Payton, the team's head man and one of the most renowned offensive masterminds in league history, while helping quarterback Bo Nix and the Broncos take the next step after they faltered in last season's AFC title game, which Nix missed with an ankle injury. You're listening to a reading of today's issue of USA Today on the Niagara Frontier Radio Reading Service. The time is 30 minutes after the hour. Number 38. In Baltimore, the Ravens have pivoted to first-year offensive coach Declan Doyle, who's never been a play caller. However, the 30-year-old assistant has apprenticed under Peyton and Ben Johnson, and two-time MVP Lamar Jackson has been effusive about working with Doyle, saying his offense is mind-blowing. 39. In Seattle, the Seahawks have pivoted to rookie offensive coach Brian Fleury, who's been a football assistant at various levels since 2003, but never a coordinator at pro level. Poached from San Francisco's staff after 7 years with the 49ers, Fleury could be the champ's biggest X factor as he tries to provide a smooth transition to Sam Darnold and company following Kubiak's departure. In Los Angeles, the Chargers have pivoted to former Dolphins head coach Mike McDaniel, who had one of the league's top offenses for much of his Miami tenure. Pairing him with quarterback Justin Herbert should add juice to a Bolts offense that's been middling for most of Herbert's career, and for a team that's more than 7 years removed from its last playoff win, but also wouldn't mind playing a Super Bowl in its own building. At Tampa Bay, the Buccaneers have pivoted to Zach Robinson, their fifth offensive coach in 5 seasons. Who knows, man? 42. As Nix and Daniels adjust to the new guys in their headsets, fellow 2024 first-rounder Michael Penix Jr. and J.J. McCarthy are fighting to simply get their QB roles back. The other two QBs of the half dozen picked in round 1 2 years ago, New England's Drake May, runner-up for league MVP in 2025, and Chicago's Caleb Williams, should enjoy far more continuity in their current situations and seem to have overtaken Daniels and Nix after finishing well behind them in Offensive Rookie of the Year voting. A meeting of the Bears and Patriots in Super Bowl 61 would hardly be a shock given the strides both organizations made in 2025, each winning its division after last place finish the year before. Number 43. In Western New York, the Bills will be playing their first season at the new Highmark Stadium, which they hope will be akin to an East Coast version of Seattle's raucous Lumen Field, but with natural grass. Good luck. Number 44. In Nashville, the Titans will be playing their final season in Nissan Stadium. Good riddance. Number 45. However, Tennessee already has unveiled its new uniforms, and the oil derrick logo notwithstanding, has gone almost completely back to its Houstonian glory. Number 46. The Falcons, Ravens, Rams, and Commanders also have new threads in 2026, though none more drastic departures from their familiar looks, though Washington's throwback route included a questionable decision to include an alternate logo that includes a spear embedded in the W insignia. Number 47. Who will be the league's top free agent in 2027? If quarterback Kyler Murray can rehabilitate his career in Minnesota, which presumes he beats out McCarthy for the starting job, one of the few QB1 camp battles expected to transpire this summer, it will almost certainly be him, given the Vikings can't tag Murray after his 1-year deal expires in next March. 48. This season is also a big one for Carolina's Bryce Young and Houston's C.J. Stroud, quarterbacks taken with the top 2 picks, respectively, of the 2023 draft, but who haven't necessarily played well enough to reel in long-term extensions. Both led their teams to the playoffs in 2025, but failed to distinguish themselves in the postseason, notably Stroud, who had 7 turnovers in 2 games while accounting for 2 touchdowns. Number 49. A fan of the Jets, Cardinals, or Browns? Then you might want to spend most of your time scouting the University of Texas's Arch Manning, Oregon's Dante Moore, or Notre Dame's C.J. Carr, quarterbacks who could be the top 3 picks of the 27 draft. If those seemingly quarterback-deprived teams slot into the top 3 positions, and with 3 first-round picks at their disposal, it's a near certainty the Jets, some way or another, will come away with one of them. 50. Let's end where we started. The upcoming Super Bowl is set to be played in Greater LA. You never really know what's going to happen in the NFL, but good luck finding a team that enters the season with greater expectations than the 26 Rams. Fortunate bounce here or there in either of their visits to Seattle last season, the Rams probably advanced to and win Super Bowl 60. Since then, they've loaded up defensively, stunning the league with their June 1st trade for 2-time Defensive Player of the Year Myles Garrett. And imagine if they only get a version of Aaron Donald back, that 75% of the game record we became accustomed to for a decade prior to his 2024 retirement. Arguably, the league's second best team each of the last 2 seasons, the Rams are in full-on Super Bowl or bust mode in Garrett's first season in Hollywood, and perhaps reigning league MVP Matthew Stafford's last. The next headline on page 2 of today's sports section reads, Michigan seeking reforms with athletic director just absurd, by Blake Topmeyer. Michigan athletics suffered from poor oversight and accountability failures at the top level of its university leadership. Those are the words of school interim president Domenico Grasso. This must change, Grasso said. Domenico Grasso. Grasso earmarked just the man to help effectuate change. Outgoing athletic director Ward Manuel will help implement sweeping reforms before he scoots out the door, according to Grasso. This is the same Manuel who's resigning at the end of the year after an embattled tenure filled the department's scandals. That includes ex-football coach Sharon Moore having a years-long extramarital affair with a direct report. After Moore's affair became public and Michigan fired him, Moore barged into his mistress's residence, got hold of knives, and got himself arrested on a felony charge before he ultimately reached a plea deal to lesser crimes. Moore's affair and subsequent meltdown happened under Manuel's watch. So too did Jim Harbaugh's Wolverines cheating en route to a national championship. And still, Manuel's going to stick around for several months to help spearhead evolution. Quote, I've asked Manuel, along with one of my trusted vice presidents, to serve as a special advisor to the president and help implement reforms, Grasso said. You've got to be kidding me. When one of the guys who steered Michigan into this mess is tapped to help spearhead reform, it makes me skeptical that Michigan is serious about reform. Jenner and Block, the law firm Michigan hired to investigate after Moore's affair, meltdown, and arrest, asserted that Manuel failed to quickly and effectively act on allegations of wrongdoing by athletics employees. That's a lawyerly way of saying Manuel was slow-footed to root out cheating that occurred both on and off the field, if you catch my drift. Instead of firing Manuel, Grasso wants him to stick around for several months to be part of the reform he failed to implement in his 10-plus years as athletic director. Good grief. Manuel's failures are part of why reform is needed. That much is clear from the investigation summary Jenner and Block released. By Michigan's logic, apparently being a failed athletic director makes Manuel qualified to lead reform. Make it make sense. In just the past few years, football staff minion Connor Stallions wore a disguise and stole opponents' signals. Harbaugh got slapped with 14 years' worth of show cause penalties from the NCAA. Assistant coach Matt Weiss was indicted on federal allegations of computer hacking and creeping on women. Frankly, Manuel lasting this long after so much corruption unfolded under his nose is no small feat, and it's appalling that he'd be asked to be involved in any efforts to create a more righteous future. It's unclear the extent to which Manuel knew about Moore's affair prior to Moore's December firing. At best, Manuel was asleep at the wheel. We might have a better idea of what Manuel knew and when he knew it if Michigan released the full findings of the investigation, but the university has no intentions of transparency. Michigan paid the law firm big bucks to conduct an investigation that apparently included 350 interviews of 300 people and a review of more than 20,000 documents. Instead of releasing the full findings, Michigan asserted attorney-client privilege and distributed only a 2,000-word summary from Jenner and Bach that offered scant details but ample self-praise. I suppose that means transparency won't be a part of the reform Michigan tasked Manuel with helping lead. Michigan looks more serious about keeping the details of Jenner and Bach's investigation secret than it does about instituting substantive transformation. Although the details of the findings are skimpy, we know the law firm determined Manuel failed to swiftly and effectively act on allegations of malfeasance by athletics employees. Michigan thinks that makes Manuel the ideal person to lead reform. That's absurd, but that's Michigan. The next headline in today's sports section is under the WNBA Power Rankings and reads Celebrating Franchises All-Time Best by Sydney Henderson and Mitchell Northam. The Minnesota Lynx are at the top of the WNBA standings with a 2-game lead after a win over Seattle Storm on July 20th. The Golden State Valkyries, on the other hand, had their 9-game winning streak stopped by the Washington Mystics the same day and dropped from the top spot in USA Today's Sports WNBA Power Rankings. The Las Vegas Aces round out the top 3, also 2 games back of the Lynx. With the 2026 WNBA All-Star break rapidly approaching amid the league's 30th anniversary season, we're feeling nostalgic. Let's take a look at each franchise's all-time best player in this week's USA Today Sports and WNBA Power Rankings. Number 1, Minnesota Lynx, 21-6, previous rank 2, 1 up. Who's the franchise's all-time best player? Forward Maya Moore. Olivia Miles' journey in Minnesota started with a history lesson from Cheryl Reeve, the all-time winningest coach in WNBA history. Reeve showed off the 4 championship banners and 5 jerseys hanging from the rafters at Target Center, belonging to Maya Moore, Sylvia Fowles, Simone Augustus, Rebecca Brunson, and Lindsay Whalen. I'm here to be a sponge and to hopefully have a banner hung up one day, Miles, who leads all rookies in scoring 19.1 points per game and assists 5.9 per game, told USA Today Sports on May 12th. Miles is well on her way to winning Rookie of the Year, like Moore did in 2011. After a standout career at UConn, Moore played 8 WNBA seasons before retiring at the age of 29 to pursue criminal justice reform, eventually exonerating her now husband Jonathan Irons. Still, that was plenty of time for Moore to make her mark and help the Lynx win 4 championships. The 6-foot forward from Jefferson City, Missouri, leads the franchise in career points per game, 18.1, and total steals, 451. Moore was a 7-time All-WNBA selection and 6-time All-Star. She was also 2014 MVP and scoring champion. Moore finished in the top 10 of MVP voting in 7 of her 8 seasons. Number 2, Golden State Valkyries, 19-8, previous rank 1, -1. Who's the franchise's all-time best player? Guard Veronica Burton. We know it's early, but for this exercise, every team has to have a GOAT. The Golden State Valkyries drafted Veronica Burton from the Connecticut Sun with the number 3 overall pick of their expansion draft. Burton's selection has helped shape the Valkyries' identity across 2 seasons. Though 26 starts this season, Veronica Burton is averaging a career-high 11.9 points and a team-high 28.4 minutes per game. The Valkyries rank top 5 in the league in both offense and defense, which fueled a 9-game winning streak that included 5 wins on the road. Burton recorded an 11-point, 11-assist double-double in the Valkyries' 74-69 win over the Washington Mystics on July 18th. Number 3, Las Vegas Aces, 18-7, previous rank 3, no change. Who's the franchise's all-time best player? Center A'ja Wilson. In 2025, A'ja became the first WNBA or NBA player to win the scoring title, MVP, Defensive Player of the Year, and Finals MVP in one season. She cemented a Las Vegas Aces dynasty with her third WNBA title in 5 years, made possible by Wilson's game-winning jumper with 0.9 left in Game 3 of the 2025 WNBA Finals. Wilson hasn't slowed down. The 6'4" center leads the league in scoring, 25.5 points per game, and blocks, 2 per game, averaging 9.8 rebounds, 2.9 assists, and 1.5 steals in 22 games. Wilson has recorded double-digit points in every game this season, including a 45-point performance against the Connecticut Sun on May 15th. She has recorded a double-double in 4 consecutive games and earned her 8th All-Star nod. Quote, "There's greatness in A'ja Wilson," All-Star General Manager Teresa Witherspoon said. "The desire to always be great every single night in the paint. She gets it done. The emotion she plays with, she has a mid-range shot that she knocks down consistently, and she's also added deep from behind the arc. She does it as well, but she brings her team along every single night. She demands greatness from her team." Dallas Wings, 17-9, previous ranks 4, no change. Who's the franchise's all-time best player? Guard Arike Ogunbowale. The Wings' winning streak ended at 6 games after suffering a 99-98 overtime loss to the New York Liberty on July 20th. Dallas had an opportunity to win late after Ogunbowale knocked down a 3-pointer with 27.5 remaining in overtime, something Ogunbowale has done consistently throughout her career. The Notre Dame product ranks first in franchise history in points, 4,804, and field goals, 1,622. Ogunbowale has earned 4 All-Star nods. You're listening to a reading of today's issue of USA Today on the Niagara Frontier Radio Reading Service. The time is 47 minutes after the hour. Number 5, Indiana Fever, 16-10, previous rank 6, +1. Who's the franchise's all-time best player? Forward Tamika Catchings. Catchings, a 6'1" forward from New Jersey, honed her skills at Tennessee under coach Pat Summitt. She was named Defensive Player of the Year 5 times and an All-Defense selection 12 times, more than any other player. Catchings led the WNBA in steals 7 times and is the league's all-time career leader with 1,074. On the offensive end, she's 6th all-time in scoring and 2nd all-time in free throws made. Catchings was the Rookie of the Year in 2002, MVP in 2011, and led the Fever to a championship in 2012. She finished in the top 10 of MVP voting 12 times and also owns 4 Olympic gold medals with Team USA. Number 6, the Atlanta Dream, 16-10, previous rank 7, +1. Who's the franchise's all-time best player? Forward Angel McCoughtry. McCoughtry put the Atlanta Dream on the map. The Baltimore native was the number 1 overall pick out of Louisville in 2009 and won the Rookie of the Year before leading the Dream to 3 trips to the finals. McCoughtry was a 5-time All-Star, 6-time All-WNBA selection, 7-time All-Defense member, twice led the league in scoring and steals, and was named one of the WNBA's 25 greatest players of all time. Number 1 all-time in career usage percentage. She also owns a pair of Olympic gold medals. Number 7, New York Liberty, 14-12, previous rank 4, down 3. Who's the franchise's all-time best player? Forward Breanna Stewart. The New York Liberty made 5 WNBA finals but walked away empty-handed each time. That changed in 2024 when Breanna Stewart led the Liberty to the franchise's first championship. Stewart signed with the Liberty in 2023 and scored 45 points in her debut, a signal of Stewart's bright future in New York. Stewart went on to win league MVP in 2023 and has been named an All-Star for 6 consecutive seasons. Stewart, the 2026 WNBA Commissioner's Cup MVP, is leading the Liberty in points, 20.6, steals, 1.4, and blocks, 1.3, in her 10th season in the league, while ranking second in rebounds, 8.4. Stewart has scored double digits in all but one game this season, and her 7 double-doubles ranks top 10 in the league. But the Liberty have some major issues to work out if they want to win their second championship in 3 years. The Liberty had dropped 4 consecutive games, including 6 of their last 7, before an 83-81 win over the Dallas Wings. Number 8, Washington Mystics, 13-12, previous ranked 8th, no change. Who's the franchise's all-time best player? Forward Elena Del Dunn. The 6'5" unicorn talent from Delaware redefined the position with her guard skills, elite shooting touch, and versatility. An Olympic gold medalist and 2-time league MVP, Elena Del Dunn was the first WNBA player to achieve a 50-40-90 season. When she forced a trade from the Chicago Sky to the Washington Mystics in 2017, it set a precedent for player empowerment in the WNBA. 2 years later, she fueled the Mystics' championship run while playing with herniated discs in her back. Del Dunn, who will be inducted into the Naismith Hall of Fame this year, also battled Lyme disease throughout her career. She still holds the WNBA career record for free throw percentage at 93.7%. Number 9, Portland Fire, 11-15, previous rank 11, up 2. Who's the franchise's all-time best player? Guard Carla Leighty. Although the Fire's history has been brief, Carla Leighty has emerged as Portland's brightest star in the franchise's inaugural season. Portland nabbed the French native from the Golden State Valkyries in the expansion draft earlier this year, and she's leading the team in scoring, 15.5, and assists, 5.8. Leighty has recorded 3 double-doubles and scored double digits in all but 2 of the 24 games she's appeared in. Number 10, Toronto Tempo, 10-16, previous rank 10, no change. Who's the franchise's all-time best player? Guard Marina Mabrey. Mabrey earned the first All-Star nod in Tempo history, which also marked her first All-Star selection in 8 seasons after unlocking another level in Toronto. The 6'1" guard is averaging career highs in points, 21.1, and field goal percentage, 45.5%. And her 81 made three-pointers leads the league. Mabrey tied the single-game scoring record with 53 points, joining Asia Wilson and Liz Cambage. Number 11, Los Angeles Sparks, 10-15, previous rank 9, down 2. Who's the franchise's all-time best player? Center, Lisa Leslie. Lisa Leslie is, without question, one of the greatest WNBA players ever, so much so that the Los Angeles Sparks are honoring her with her own statue outside of her home at Crypto.com. Leslie spent her entire 12-year career in Los Angeles, where she won 2 WNBA titles and Finals MVP honors. The 6'5" Southern Cal Trojans product ranks 6th all-time in rebounding, 3rd in blocks, and 1st in career defensive rating. Leslie is one of 4 players to win at least 3 MVP awards and was twice named Defensive Player of the Year. Number 12, Chicago Sky, 9-17, previous rank 13, up 1. Who's the franchise's all-time best player? Forward Candace Parker. It could be argued that Courtney Vandersloot should be here, but without hometown hero Candace Parker, okay, she's from Naperville, the Sky don't win their lone championship. Selected number 1 overall in the 2008 WNBA draft by the Los Angeles Sparks, Parker won titles with the Sparks in 2016, Sky 2021, Las Vegas Aces in 2023. She won 2 MVPs and was selected an All-Star 7 times. Number 13, Phoenix Mercury, 9-18, previous rank 12, down 1. Who's the franchise's all-time best player? Guard Diana Taurasi. Diana Taurasi spent a WNBA record 20 seasons in Phoenix and is one of the greatest WNBA players to ever play the game. Nicknamed the White Mamba, Taurasi was known for her unmatched, relentless scoring ability and fierce competitive drive. The UConn product led the Mercury to 3 WNBA championships and became the WNBA all-time leading scorer with 10,646 career points, having averaged 22.1 points on 42% shooting across her decades-long career. Taurasi was 2009 WNBA MVP and was a first-time All-WNBA pick 10 times and an All-Star 11 times. Number 14, Connecticut Sun, 7-19, previous rank 15, up 1. Who is the franchise's all-time best player? Forward Alyssa Thomas. After opening the season 2-15, the Sun have won 5 of their last 10 games, including a 96-83 win over the Phoenix Mercury. Alyssa Thomas, who was traded to the Mercury in 2025, is the greatest Sun player of all time. Thomas spent the first 11 seasons of her career in Connecticut, 2014 to 2024. Thomas is Connecticut's all-time franchise leader in points, 3,889, minutes, 9,754, field goals, 1,503, rebounds, 2,395, assists, 1,462, and steals, 494, while ranking second overall in points, 3,892. Thomas led the Sun to the WNBA Finals twice, 2019 and 2022, and is the only player in Sun history to record a triple-double, which she did 11 times in Connecticut. Number 15, Seattle Storm, 6-22, previous rank 14, down 1. Who is the franchise's all-time best player? Guard Sue Bird. Sue Bird went the entirety of her 19-year WNBA career in Seattle, and she easily lands on the Mount Rushmore of point guards. Bird is the league's all-time assists leader, 3,234, averaging 5.6 assists and 2.4 turnovers across her career. She led the league in assists 3 times, 2005, 2009, and 2016. Her 13 All-Star selections and 9 All-Star starts is second to none, and her 4 WNBA championships, 2004, 2010, 2018, 2020, is tied for the second most in WNBA history. Bird is the only player to win 3 championships in 3 different decades, highlighting not only her longevity, but her dominance. You've been listening to a reading of USA Today for Wednesday, July 22nd, 2026. We read the USA Today weekdays at noon. For more information, call us at 716-821-5555. Your reader this hour has been David Frothingham.
Coming up next in the Niagara Frontier Radio Reading Service, we have episode number 3 of More Than Enough by Anna Quinlan. Following that at 3 o'clock is Healthy Living, and at 4 o'clock a re-airing of this morning's Buffalo News. Stay with us. You're listening to the Niagara Frontier Radio Reading Service. As of this year, our agency has broadcast more than 300,000 hours of radio readings. Volunteer radio readers read newspapers, magazines, and books to area people who are blind or have a print disability, who are provided reading radios. Radio Reading's broadcast signal is provided at no charge by WNED. Radio Reading broadcasts from studios at 1199 Harlem Road in suburban Buffalo. Please let others know about Radio Reading. It's your service. For more information on the Niagara Frontier Radio Reading Service, call 716-821-5555. following program is intended for listeners who are blind, have low vision, or have another print disability